Moving to a metro is supposed to be the smart move. Better opportunities, better salary, better life. That's what we were told. That's what most of us believed. But something is quietly shifting in 2026 and it's being driven by people who did everything right. Good education, good job, made it to the big city. People who should, by every traditional measure, be winning. They are running the numbers and a lot of them don't like what they are seeing. Here's a question I want you to sit with for the next few minutes. You earn 2 lakhs a month, you live in Bangalore, 40,000 goes to rent, another 50,000 goes into commute expenses, fuel, food near the office. You spend 2 to 3 hours every single day in traffic, hours that don't show up in your salary slip. And after 5 years of this, you don't own a single asset. Your disposable income at the end of the month is thin and you're exhausted in a way that weekend can't fix. Are you actually winning, or does it just feel that way because the number on your paycheck is high? Today, we are going to answer that honestly. We'll look at why smart, ambitious Indians are quietly exiting metros, not because they failed, but because they ran the numbers. We'll break down what this means for your career, your children, your parents. We'll look at where the real estate opportunity is actually right now, and then I'll give you a practical 8-question decision scorecard so that by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what the right move is for you specifically. By the way, I'm Nikhil. I'm a chartered accountant by profession with nearly 2 decades of experience with EY, PwC, and one of India's top wealth management firm before launching my own startup. This is Finicky, where I simplify money the same way I practice it. So let's get into it. Let's start with the numbers because the numbers are where most people are lying to themselves. If you're paying 40,000 a month in rent in a metro, that's 4.8 lakhs a year. Over 10 years, that's 48 lakhs gone. No asset, no ownership, no equity, just rent receipts. Now think about what that same 40,000 could get you in a tier 2 city. Instead of disappearing into a landlord's account every single month, it actually becomes an EMI. And that EMI is buying you something. A home, a asset, equity that actually compounds. But here's where it actually gets even more interesting. Tier 2 cities aren't just cheaper, they're growing faster. Property appreciation in many of these cities is hovering around 17 to 18%. Compare that to under 10% in major metros. So you're not just cutting your costs, you're just entering at a market that's growing faster at a significantly lower entry price. You're saving more, owning sooner, and building wealth at a higher rate simultaneously. But that's still not the biggest problem with metros. Here's the thing nobody in this conversation wants to admit. The problem isn't the rent, it isn't even the traffic. It's that these cities were never built to hold this many people and they have actually quietly hit their ceiling. India's top 7 cities hold 70% of real estate demand, but they occupy less than 15% of the country's land. That imbalance is not sustainable. Bangalore was built for roughly 50 lakh people. Today, close to 1.5 crore people live there. Mumbai has been stretched for decades, and this isn't temporary discomfort you can actually wait out. This is a structural limit. And once a city hits that limit, something counterintuitive happens. Your quality of life starts declining even as your salary goes up. You earn more, but you also spend more, commute more, stress more. The city is quietly taking back everything it gives you. So where are people actually going? Not villages, not small towns, high growth tier 2 cities. Indore, Jaipur, Coimbatore, Cochin, Chandigarh, many of these cities are no longer backup options. For a growing number of educated professionals, they are becoming the primary choice. And the reason is a combination that metros are slowly losing the ability to offer. Low cost of living, especially rent, job markets that are no longer confined to metros, accelerated by remote work and corporate decentralization. Infrastructure that's genuinely catching up. Better roads, expanded airports, faster internets, planned development, and a quality of life that metros structurally cannot match. Shorter commutes, cleaner air, more time. But here's the number that really shifts the conversation. Job growth in tier 2 cities is now rising nearly twice as fast as in metros. That changes everything because people don't just relocate for lifestyle, they move for opportunity, and opportunity is no longer constrained only with the top 8 cities. And the generation that understood this first, before the data caught up, before the think pieces were written, before the trend had a name, wasn't the one you'd expect. Gen Zs figured this out before most of us, and they're approaching it with a logic that's really hard to argue with. They're not chasing the highest salary anymore. They are asking a different question altogether. Not how much can I earn, but how much can I actually keep? Think about what this shift really means in practice. Yes, salary in a tier 2 cities are typically 25% to 30% lower, but the cost of living is nearly 50% cheaper. Rent alone drops by half. Commute cost disappears. Daily expenses, lifestyle spending, all of it falls significantly. The result? A software engineer earning about 1.4 lakhs a month in Indore is often left with more disposable income at the end of the month than someone earning maybe 2 lakhs in Bangalore. Lower salary, more money in your pocket, more savings, more investing capacity, and more financial breathing room. That's not a compromise, that is strategy, and it's the kind of strategy that builds real wealth over a decade. If that shift in thinking resonates with you, the idea that keeping more matters more than earning more, you're exactly the kind of person I make this channel for. Like and subscribe so you can keep building this together. The question everyone has, but nobody answers honestly, is this actually practical? For your career, for your children, for your family? I want to walk through this as one connected picture because the career decision, the kids question, and the family question are not separate. They all feed each other, and the answer for most people comes down to one thing. What kind of life are you actually trying to build? Let's start with your career. The old logic was simple. Your career lives in Bangalore, your network is in Mumbai, your clients are in Delhi. And for some careers, that still is true. Investment banking, entertainment, politics, premium retail, geography still matters there. But for the fastest growing categories of Indian employment, IT, fintech, edtech, consulting, content, SaaS, geography is rapidly becoming irrelevant. The NASSCOM 2025 report tells us that nearly 50% of India's 1.2 lakh DPIT recognized startups come from tier 2 and tier 3 cities, up from 35% in 2023. Funding for tier 2 startups hit 1.2 billion in just the first half of 2025, a 55% jump from the previous year. If your work can happen on a screen, a tier 2 city is not a career compromise. For many people, it's a career upgrade. Lower cost, higher savings rate, better balance, and access to local talents before metros absorb it. And now your children. And here I want to be honest rather than just being optimistic. Most metro schools have historically outperformed on CBSE boards and IIT and AIMS feeders. That gap is narrowing, but it still exists, and pretending otherwise doesn't help anymore. But here's a question worth actually sitting with. What kind of childhood do you want your child to have? Children in tier 2 cities tend to have more outdoor space, more family time, less screen pressure, and critically, parents who are less stressed and more present. And research consistently shows that parental mental health has an outsized impact on child's development, more than the school's ranking. Cities like Indore, Jaipur, and Pune now have strong CBSE and ICSE schools and serious coaching infrastructure for competitive exams, even good international schools as well. And in many cases, safer streets where your child can actually be a child. The gap is real, but so is the trade off on the other side. And then there's your family, which honestly ties the whole picture together. India is one of the very few countries in the world where 3 generation living still makes deep economic and emotional sense. And let's be blunt about what the metro life actually does to that. Aging parents in a metro are a logistical nightmare. The distance, the traffic, the sense of isolation, it takes a toll on everyone quietly and constantly. But aging parents in the same city as you, or the same neighborhood, changes the entire texture of your life. You can take care of them, they can be part of your children's daily lives. The family system functions as it's supposed to. That has a real value, the value that doesn't show up on a spreadsheet, but you actually feel it every single day. So when you put all of it together, career, children, family, it's not 3 separate decisions, it's one integrated question about what kind of life you're designing. See, tier 2 isn't perfect, let's be clear. Healthcare is still meaningfully better in metros for specialized care. Some careers genuinely require metro presence and physical networking. And your social world will be smaller. That matters more to some people than others. But for a large percentage of professionals, the trade off is worth it. The question is, whether you are in that percentage. Here's a question that really matters for long-term decision. Is this the post-COVID blip or is it structural? Because if it's temporary, you can afford to ignore it. But if it's permanent, it changes how you think about where you live, where you invest, and what you build over the next decade. Three forces are driving this shift, and none of them are reversing. Corporate decentralization, and this isn't just startup making noise. Infosys has set up a full campus in Nagpur. HCL Tech launched its new Vistas program specifically to hire and operate in Lucknow, Madurai, and Vijayawada. Think about what that actually means. A company the size of HCL with decades of metro infrastructure deliberately choosing to plant its roots in tier 2 cities. These are decade-long capital decisions. They don't get unwound just because of sentiment shifts. Then there's government investment at a scale most people haven't registered. The Smart Cities mission has deployed over 1.47 lakh crore. The Bharatmala Highway project is physically connecting districts headquarters across the country. Regional airports in cities like Surat, Indore, and Coimbatore have expanded significantly. The physical infrastructure is being built, and once it exists, it attracts everything else. And finally, demographic gravity. India's 600 million young people are increasingly educated, aspirational, and digitally connected, and the vast majority of them live outside the 8 metro cities. Talent will increasingly find opportunities locally rather than migrating. And here's why that becomes self-reinforcing. As more talent stays, more companies follow. As more companies follow, more talent stays. The loop closes on itself. McKinsey forecasts that 18 tier 2 future arenas could actually generate 2 trillion in revenue by 2030, up from 600 billion in 2023. From September 2024 to February 2025, job openings in tier 2 cities rose 42%, and in metro cities, only 19%. And that gap is widening. By 2026-27, Tier 2 cities account for nearly a third of all planned hiring in India, and their hiring growth rate is now 1.5 times faster than metros. Now, even if you have zero intention of relocating, the investment story here deserves its own conversation. Between 2024 and 2025, 44% of all land acquired by real estate developers was in Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities. That's where the institutional money is actually going. That's where developers are placing decade-long bets. Property in Jaipur nearly doubled in average ticket size over a 3-year window. Indo's super corridor has appreciated faster than Bangalore's Whitefield equivalent over the last 5 years at a fraction of the entry price. The risk profile is also different from what many people assume. Tier 2 real estate is primarily driven by end user. Real families buying real homes, not speculative investors buying that inflates and eventually pops. That makes price appreciation more stable and more sustainable over time. So what's the smart play? Buy a property in Indore, Jaipur, or Lucknow, or Coimbatore now. Live in your metro, let the assets work, options compound over time. Alright, this is the part you've been actually building towards. 8 questions. Each answer is worth 0, 1 or 2 points. Your total score tells you exactly where your next move should actually be. Pause now and take a screenshot of the full table on the screen. I'll walk you through a few questions to show you how this actually works, and then you can go through the rest at your own pace. So let's look at the first question. Can your job or business be done from anywhere? If you need to be physically present, that's 0 points. Fully remote, that's 2 points. Hybrid or partial, that's 1 point. This one matters more than any other question on this list because everything else, the rent, savings, the quality of life, the proximity to family, only becomes accessible if your income can actually follow you. If it can't, the math changes entirely. Now let's look at question 3. What are your actual savings every single month right now? More than 25% of your income, you are doing well, that's 0 points. You just need to stay put for now. Less than 10%, that's a flashing signal, 2 points. Somewhere in between, 1 point. This is a question that cuts through narrative. A lot of metro professionals feel financially successful but are functionally living paycheck to paycheck, just with a higher number on the paycheck. The savings rate is the honest number, it doesn't lie. Now let's look at question 5. Does your career growth depends on your physical presence? If your next promotion, your next client, your next opportunity genuinely requires you being in that room, 0 points. If it's skill based and location independent, 2 points. Mixed, 1 point. Now, again, you can pause here, take a screenshot of the full scorecard, go through all 8 questions on your own, then add it up. Maximum is 16 points, and notice what this scorecard is actually doing. It's not just about money, it's about fit, because a move that is financially smart but personally wrong will cost you in ways that doesn't show up anywhere on a spreadsheet. For most people watching, the answer sits somewhere in the middle, and that's completely fine because the middle is actually where the smartest play is right now. You don't have to quit your job in Bangalore next Monday. You don't have to pull your kids out of school. What you have to do is stop letting inertia make the decisions for you. Here's how thousands of smart Indians are already executing this deliberately in stages without an all or nothing bet. Step 1. Invest first. Buy a property in a high growth tier 2 city. Indore, Jaipur, Lucknow, Cochin, Coimbatore. Even if you don't move, you've started building equity in a market that will grow. The asset works whether or not you relocate. Step 2. Negotiate location flexibility. If you are in a hybrid or remote capable role, propose a 2-week in city and 2-week remote arrangement to your employer. I know many companies will say yes, it costs them nothing. It helps them retain a good person. Just ask, you actually might be surprised. Step 3. Build roots slowly. Spend school vacations in your tier 2 city. Let your parents and your children build familiarity with it, so that when you do eventually decide to move, it feels like coming home and not starting over. So here's what I want you to leave you with. For the first time in modern Indian history, success and geography are no longer tied together. You don't have to choose between ambition and quality of life, between your career and your parents, between building wealth and breathing clean air. The metros built modern India, and they'll continue to matter. But the next chapter of Indian prosperity won't be written only in Bangalore or Mumbai. It will be written in the super corridors and the ring roads and the clean, well-governed, rapidly growing cities that many of us quietly call home. And here's the thing. The person who figures this out in 2026, who makes the deliberate decision instead of a default one, who invests in a market that's growing faster at half the price, that person isn't making a compromise. They're just playing a smarter game than the rest. Smart Indians aren't just exiting metros, they're expanding their definition of success, of home, of where a good life is actually possible. Take the scorecard, think about it honestly, and whether you move, invest, or stay, make it a deliberate decision, not a default one. If this made you rethink about how you look at cities, career, or money, share it with someone who's still stuck in that metro cycle. They'll thank you for it. And I'm genuinely curious. Have you ever seriously thought about moving out of metro? Or have you already done it? Drop your story in the comments. I read every single one. That's it from me. I'm Nikhil Verghese. Subscribe to learn how to make your finances less tricky with Finicky. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.